Welcome back, everyone, to the T.R.O.N podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods, with the Randomness of Nothing. Today, I have a very special guest today, actress, talented musician, vocalist, behind the camera, as well as in front of it, Belle Guillory, by way of Austin, Texas, now in California. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Rashad. So happy to be here with you.
Oh, man, first of all, I got to be honest with you. Your talent speaks for itself. So please, I don't want to overtalk you. Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
Well, you said it. I'm born and raised Austin, Texas. And pretty much I grew up with a big family. I'm the eldest of 8.
Oh, wow.
So the arts was just like in us when we were young. We'd be, I'd make them my choir. I'd make them my castmates. I'd make them anything my imagination could come up with. And so that's kind of where it all started. And then actually a shift day, I was like, you know what? I was always a great student. So I went to college. I got my marketing degree. And after that, I got a scholarship to go to film school out here in Los Angeles.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so I came out here. That's kind of what made the big shift from Texas to LA. And I've been out here now for 7 years, crazy to say.
Congratulations to you.
And kind of like what you said, acting, writing, worked, oh my goodness, the journey. I've worked at distribution companies. I worked at Warner Brothers on the corporate side. Wow. I've been an assistant to Tracee, Ellis, Ross, the Gyllenhaals. Like, really, when I first came out here, it was like, learn as much as you can. Sure. And then finally, I was like, you know what? Let's create our own stuff. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
And so that's when, like, as you saw, like, with the acting stuff, I booked a film, which has, sorry.
I love that title. I love that title. No, it's the name of the name of the movie. So it's not like you're referring to somebody, you know what I mean? So,
it's always like, sometimes I'm like, BA.
Yeah, it's all good.
And that's on Paramount Plus, Showtime Plus now, BET Plus. Like, and then I did plays where I was like singing in because I am classically trained. Wow. Musicals is like my heart. I love musicals. And then and then God Be With Us, my heart, my baby. I pretty much poured my money into it. I really wanted to tell a story that related to me and others, so I'm glad to hear that you were able to relate to it. And that was Licensed Off Fox Soul.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because it was like, the parents, now my parents weren't pastors. My dad was a deacon at the church, right? So, my mom was involved and I went to church back.
Tomato.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Semantics. But like, I could relate to like, being the kid from the Catholic school, right? In the controlled environment to going to public school, even though I lived in the city with the public school. Like, so it's funny because even like playing sports, right? Like, so when you play in Catholic school, it's clean, right? They're not cussing on the court. They're not cussing at the refs, right? They, next thing you know, you go to public school and like, even though I would play like at the park with these kids, being in organized regular basketball in a different environment was like, I'm a fish out of water here when it comes to the language being used right now. So it's kind of funny, right? You know what I mean? I'll keep it PC. 100%. I'll keep it PG,
No, 100%. I can relate to that. Once I went to like public school, because we moved to Big Spring, Texas. Shout out to them. I was hearing kids cussing in the hallways. I was like,
oh, for sure.
Oh my goodness.
And you think it's something wrong with you, right? You think it's something wrong with you. And then fast forward like a year and a half later, 6 months, you're using all the language that's around. You're like, oh, it's cool now. Okay. I'm not going to act to be a saint. Right. You know what I mean? So I thought, it was really funny, poignant, and sweet. Right. And I thought that it kind of reminded me, I'm dating myself a little bit, of like the Wood almost, like that era of like positivity, like that's like, hey, there's another side of this genre that's not explored as well. Not everything is a tragedy or a quote unquote hood flick, right? There are normal interactions that take place. And I thought that was really poignant. I thought it was sweet, even when you're dancing in your room, right? Stuff like that. I thought that was really fun.
No, that's a great comparison because, like I said, I
was really enjoyable about that.
Yes, thank you. I was just saying, I love that you picked up on that because I come from a big family, so I grew up watching like the 90s shows, the 90s sitcoms. I feel like in the 90s, we had a lot of that feel-good Black stories.
Unquestioned.
Like Fresh Prince, Family Matters, Sister. Like, I loved all of those things. And I feel like we haven't had that lately. So I wanted to bring that back.
Well, and two, it's because it's digital and it's fragmented now. So like you have to really seek it out to find it, right? So there's not like it's good and it's bad, right? Because now you can consume it. There's Tubi, there's Amazon, and it's readily available. But it's also not on your regular scheduled programming where like on Tuesday night you knew this was coming on, right? So it's kind of a mixed bag, but I was really happy to see that. It had me laughing at a few scenes too, right? You know, because it just reminded me of me, you know, it really did. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, that's that. I could definitely relate to the fish out of water, right?
Yes, I love that. No, yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about how you actually like implement in making filmmaking, because you also have your own production company. Let me get of your entertainment. Excuse me.
Yes,
so
Gillory
can we talk about
Entertainment.
how? Yeah, let's talk about that, please.
Okay, yeah. So pretty much where that started from, like I said, once I shifted, I'm pretty sure you know about like the writer's strike and
Oh my
everything that was
goodness.
going on a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. That just changed the game. I was like, you know what? I have stories to tell. I felt like God was telling me, girl, come on, it's time to get in the game. And so I created Guillory Entertainment, where pretty much we champion these stories. You know, I'm more family based, positivity, like you said. Guillory, my last name means powerful. So
Beautiful.
it's like the power in storytelling meets the power in you. And I want to see more diverse storytelling, like Black people in fantasy.
Right.
You know, I love dystopian
Oh my
movies.
goodness. No doubt.
Like,
No doubt.
you know? And so God Be With Us is literally just the start of like so much more that I want to do with it. So the process of getting it started pretty much, it starts off with that first project. You know, you need that legitimacy, which was God Be With Us. So that's why I'm grateful that we were able to, you know, get it licensed and get that out there.
I think that the one thing that I've always, like when I did this podcast, is I find it funny. Like it was not cool to be a geek, but now it's cool to be a geek. Right? Like it kind of flipped on its head, right? So I was like I played basketball, and but like in comics and fantasy was not cool like in the '90s, right? Right. And now the internet exploded. Now they make billions of dollars and they're global, and like now everybody wants in on it. And I'm looking back at it like, man, I was made fun of the same stuff y'all love. Like,
I know.
it's kind of funny.
Crazy?
It's nuts. It's nuts.
It just flips on top of its head. Yeah, you're right. Cool. I remember at the time, like, when Star Wars and stuff wasn't it, but then I also remember the shift when it was like super perfect.
For sure. For sure. I really, when you started talking that fantasy and all the other stuff, right? I'm like, you know, it resonated very deeply with me because like I always would like to see those things, but you were like in a little exclusive little geek club, right? So it was like, you know, this wasn't basketball or football, right? But now it's cool, and now I get to kind of take my crown back because I'm like, y'all weren't up on that 20 years ago, but I was.
And I think that's the beauty of like how life works. Because when I was younger, I tried out so many times for cheerleading, you know, because you know that's seen as like on the girl side, you know, that's the cool thing to get into. But I could never make the team. But instead, that opened me to debate and like storytelling. So it's crazy. Like it'll come back full circle in your story.
Yeah, right. So you know, how did you get your beginning? So you obviously said you were doing church and choir and things like that. Did you do things in school? You know, because you were very expressive in the videos, you know, clips that I saw of you. So I was like, you're clearly trained.
Yeah, so I first started theater when I was like 13. And like I briefly mentioned, I did debate like throughout high school and college. So when people hear debate, they mostly think like debating. But there's actually an artistic side to it where you take poetry, prose, and you bring out these meaningful messages for society, and you perform it though. Like you're like a one person show and you perform it. So I did that as well for a very long time. Yeah, they call it interpretation. If you're not in the world, you kind of don't know, but you gotta be in the world. And
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then film school. So I've been in this for a while. So yeah, but theater, I have like a love for acting, like the theatrics, like you said, because I feel like even with comedy, like you know, back in the day we had like the Jim Carreys, like you know, the Jamie Foxxes. They're very expressive.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's like, yeah, just to, you know, dabble that back into it is what I was trying to do as well.
Well, the thing is about it too is that people who do comedy don't get nearly the credit they deserve for how hard that actually truly is, right? You know, And I've listened to, you know, when people talk about be funny and getting punchlines, or you find out people who do stand up, they practice their craft for like a year writing out their jokes. And it's, you know, I remember when I saw Tracee Morgan live once, and like it's so serious. They're like, no cameras, no cameras. And you're like, what? But it resonates so deeply with them that they don't want their jokes to be spoiled or be stolen, or their artistic merit of what they cultivated, you know, be ruined by a 10-second clip, or just be shared in that way, because they work so hard on that. Being funny is hard.
That's true, because comedy is so subjective. That's the funny thing, because people, when I was in school and stuff, people were like, you're so funny, you're so funny. I would never call myself funny because you may think I'm funny, but the person next to you may not, you know?
Yeah.
It really depends on who you're talking to.
For sure.
So that's why I try to find the middle ground of like, what can relate to everybody? You know, and I feel like everyone can relate to being an outcast at some point in life.
Well, I think the funny part is that, you know, sometimes, and I've heard, I have no idea if this is you or not, that some people who are, you know, have insecurity or shyness actually gravitate towards acting or towards singing, because it's their way to actually get out of that shell of theirs, so to speak. And again,
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In school, like when I was like in junior high, you would not hear me talk. Like I would not talk. I was the shy kid. And that is true. Like it's a way of acting and singing is a way of expressing yourself and getting your voice heard, really.
Right. And it's not really like, I don't want to say it's not you, but it's like this is a version of me that I can express out. Right. Exactly. Which is very impressive. So you obviously you won an audience award at the 2022 South by Southwest Film Festival as them in your movie, and also had Tony Todd in it. God bless his soul. You know, what was that experience like?
That movie was so much fun. So, because it's a horror film.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, I don't even like horror films like that.
Right.
I grew up with them. My grandmother loved horror films, though, so I feel like that was a full circle moment.
Oh wow!
So to be in one and that be like my first like big role, I guess you could say. So pretty much the story follows like 4 kids breaking into a house, and it's like a slasher film. You already know if you break into someone's house, you know something's about to go down.
Yeah.
And I played cricket, and I wasn't the first to die. At least I wasn't the first one. That's all I wanted, though. That's all I wanted. I was like the second and third.
Okay.
Like we made it through.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun because the deaths are based off of like children's games, funny enough.
Oh wow.
So mine was Connect 4, the game that my character plays. So yeah, so imagine you're playing Connect 4 and at the top it's like knives. And then that's how she gets like, I'm not going to spoil that for you.
Yeah. You know, I got Paramount Plus, so I'm going to have to look that up. I think that'll be a nice Saturday. Yeah. So it's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, but go ahead.
I was going to say, what are some of the misconceptions about acting on film for, you know, somebody who's not an actor, right? Like getting into the industry, auditioning, like what are the can you give us like a 20-second outline of people who want to break in and what they need to do?
Yes. If you want to break in, you have to have, I feel like people say this a lot, but you really do have to have a belief in yourself, a persistence, because I was out here for maybe like 3 years before I booked that. I may have booked like a couple of commercials, but you know, sometimes it takes a while. But some people get it quicker than others.
For sure.
You know, everyone's journey really is different. So you really just have to have that persistence and that belief in yourself. That's the big thing, because once you have that, doors will just start to open for you.
Yeah, and does it also help to have, obviously, you sing and you're performing and you've had experience, like, did it help to have that background, like a specialized kind of skill set that, you know, that would be easier to navigate? I don't say easier, but just be able to apply to roles or say, I can do that previously.
Yes, I definitely think knowing your strengths can help and letting your team know that. Because the funny thing is, people would always be like, oh yeah, you do comedy and stuff. But for a long time, I was only getting auditions for like drama. Don't get me wrong, I could give you a little tearjerker. But my comedy side wasn't being, you know, shown as much as I wanted to. So when like my agent had got me the audition, that was like even her first time seeing me in like a comedy space. It was like,
for sure,
good job. And that was the first time she actually ever like complimented a self-tape of mine. And then I ended up booking it.
Nice.
Because whenever you watch BA, whenever you watch it, it does pull from like some 90s stuff that we were talking about. So I kind of definitely incorporated like that 90s humor, like the Chris Tuckers and stuff like that I admire.
Well, one time, because I have a martial arts background, right? So I live just outside of Detroit. So in Ann Arbor, which is about 35 miles from me, they have like, you can do stunt performing, learn how to do stunt performing and things like that. So I was like, what if I wanted to get in like fight choreography? And fight choreography is much different than actual like real hand to hand combat, right? Because the punches are more exaggerated and things like that. So it was like having to kind of retrain your mind on what an audience would want to see versus what you were trained to do. Do you find a difference in that with what do you sing different on film than you would on stage and things like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. There definitely is a big difference.
Okay.
Because when you're on stage, everything is big. Everything's big.
Right.
Especially if you're filling up like an auditorium or anything like that. And then with film, I realized since the camera is so here, they're able to catch any little thing, so you don't have to do as much.
Okay. Okay. Got it. I understand. So you don't have to be as overtly expressive, right? So.
Because a little bit goes such a long, long way.
Okay.
When it comes to film, and so it's like when you're switching back and forth, you have to like keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I
can only imagine.
I remember when I was switching back to theater, like, and I was talking, I realized like, oh my gosh, I can barely hear myself. Yeah. Like, because you're in this big space, so it's like you gotta really push.
Got it. Now, when it comes to your entertainment company, is it just you? Do you have a team with you? Like, what's the size of your team, or is it just you solo?
I have a team. We're a small, mighty team, but we're we're growing.
For sure.
So right now it is me, and then it depends on the projects. I'll bring different people on. So I have different producing partners that I work with. So like with God Be With Us, I have a great producer, Selena. She has her own production company. I'm working on an animation short film right now.
That's awesome.
So I'm working with another producer, Naomi on the Kune, Nayek. And so I have people in different areas like that I bring on. Yeah. But with the company itself, we have someone that helps run our social media because that's such a big thing nowadays.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. I'm just a small one-man podcast, and like I can't tell you how hard it is to actually navigate things you're not good at. Right, like that's a really hard thing. So like the social media, I was just like, I can't. Right, the hashtags, because it's really actually an art, right? Like you have to know clips, you have to know what trends, you have to know the right terminology, you have to know the right SEOs, and I'm the bum that just says, man, just put it out there and leave me alone. But that's not how that works, right? So to speak.
That is me too, because I'm the exact same way. I'm like, just put it out there. I don't care about all the stuff. Like if there's an audience that comes, they come. But no, it's an art craft to it. And the people that do well on social media, they know what they're doing.
They do. And you're like, you're like, are you serious? Like, I mean, they call me like literally like we utilize this stuff, but you're only using the surface level, actual level of what it actually is capable of. It's the back end of it is a monster. It really is.
But yeah, so that's mostly it. It's mostly me too, honestly. Even with the social media stuff, I'm the one having to plan things and all sorts of stuff. It's exhausting. It's exhausting being a one person show. Like sure. it can be.
Yeah, but, and you're here, and I'm like right here, so I already know.
Oh no, we here, baby. We here together. We here together.
Yeah. I appreciate that. How do you? And I say this very respectfully, as a woman of color, Black woman that's in this field of work, how do you navigate that space?
Ooh, yes. Again, okay, well, first of all, something just came to my mind. I don't think I'm less than anybody. I don't think anybody's better than me. Absolutely. And I don't think I'm better than anybody else. And so I go into spaces thinking that. The reason I say that is because I have friends that will be like, "Oh, do you think you don't get the job because you're Black? Or do you think you don't get this because you're Black?" I'm like, no, those thoughts do not come in my head.
Right.
I like, it is a real thing, don't get me wrong, because sometimes you may be like, peep something. But honestly, I think what you believe also exudes out your reality. I'm going to get the job. I'm going to get the opportunity. And I've been blessed enough to have gotten a lot of opportunities. So I'll give it to that mindset. And honestly, the biggest person I gotta thank is Jesus Christ. Because it's God, because he gives me the confidence that I can go in these spaces and that I belong there. Because I think we can all get, what is it called? I've been hearing a lot. What is it called? The imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I just had another person talk about that with me too, right? So I thought that was, I literally just the guest, right, like before you, who was saying the exact same thing. And, you have to be in your own space, and you have to be like, it's like martial arts. Like I do martial arts. Like you have to be okay with your skill set and where you're at, right? And as long as, because, the guy that's winning all the tournaments or the woman that's winning all the tournaments, like sometimes physically you just can't do what they can do. Like you can train, you can be in the gym, you can eat right, and then you're like, I'm just not that. It's just not how I'm built. And I have to be okay with that,
And that's true too. Sometimes you have to have those hard conversations with yourself on where you're at. But also since because like you said, being a young Black woman, because sometimes I've been blessed enough to be in rooms with people that are way older than me. So sometimes it seems like they may not take me as seriously because I'm on the younger side. But for me, that just shows, okay, I just got something to prove. Like, trust. Like, I'm going to work hard and get there. And, Well,
the only reason I kind of asked that is because, like, there's been a large migration of, like, British Black actors out of England because they're like, I can't star in Downton Abbey. I just, like, it's not, and I'm not knocking any programming at all. But they're just like, hey, it's not available for me. That time period piece doesn't have roles available for somebody who looks like me. So I wasn't sure, like, if that applied at all to U.S. filmmaking at all. But I'm glad you're doing well.
When it comes to acting, I would say that's why I started my production company. Because I was actually talking to a friend about this. There are only so many Black roles in general. On shows. There really is. And the thing is, we need more Tyler Perry's. We need more Issa Rae's. We need more Michaela Coel's. Ryan Coogler's, Quinta Brunson's. We do need more because when I first started acting, there was that sense of, dang, there's only that one Black character. Why is that? And then they happen to also have to be, they have to play two minorities, Black and gay. They usually put a boat together and like, there you go. And it's like,
So,
there's a lot of stories to
it
tell.
becomes even more specific, when it comes to like, this is a small sample size of people that could actually do this, right? And so
exactly.
Which is,
so when it comes to that, that's why I also created Guillory Entertainment to give more opportunities because that's the thing. So when it comes to opportunities or being good enough, they're like two different things because there's just not that many. Even Viola Davis, my friend, talked to me about this because, she went to a prestigious school.
Yes.
She told me that once she got out, something that they don't teach you is the roles that you're doing in acting school, it's like white pieces. But when you're auditioning, it's typically for like, what's good, like, more like the stereotypical Black characters, and they don't teach you that. So you got to learn that. So it's like, then there's that. There's not enough material for us to learn from. It's like a whole bunch of things. We just need more.
Yeah, and like I said, that was something that resonated with me. And like I said, your accomplishments speak for themselves. That's not a slight on the industry. That's just the availability of roles that are available in that respective field. So I want to give kudos to you for everything that you've accomplished and done because I think that's amazing.
Thanks. And you too.
Hey, listen, I'm honestly I always quote one of my favorite rappers of all time, Cormega. He said, I'm just trying to be a man in this poison land. Forgive me, Father, they forced my hand. So I always try to, say, hey, I had to get this out of me to be able to talk to somebody like you because, you're busy, you're accomplishing things, and what better medium to do that than to try to put myself out there in some artistic venue. I can't sing, I can't dance. You don't want to see me try to attempt to do either one. So, but I figured this could be my artistic expression.
No, yes. And this is an artistic expression for sure.
I appreciate that. Whatever. Do you have any upcoming projects before? I certainly wouldn't want to leave that question hanging.
Yeah, so there's some things I'm working on. Like I said, an animation short film that I'm working on with a Black lead, a Black girl lead, and then a feature film. I'm finishing up writing over a historical Black beauty pageant. So we got more things. I'm gonna always tell stories. I got a whole pipeline. It's just about, finishing them up, getting them out there, getting them packaged, and getting them going at this point. But yeah.
That's wonderful. And like I said, I know you're busy, so to be able to carve time out on my little podcast, The Randomness of Nothing, it's always about me making connections with people who have inspiring stories to tell. So by way of Texas to California, and I'm sure I'll see your name headlining something very large in the future. So I'm looking forward to seeing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Can you explain to me the randomness of nothing? Like, where'd you get the title from?
Okay, so briefly, like, honestly, like, when I talked about geek, this is like this guy, right? So, like, I was like, man, like, what am I expert at, right? Like, because I would have conversations with people and I could literally, like, I would insert the most random, unknown fact of, like, from something from, like, 1864 or whatever the case may be. Like, I'm the guy who could literally just, I used to have an encyclopedia in my bedroom as a kid, but encyclopedia set, and I just knew random facts, right? I did. I just knew it, right? And so fast forward to like you get older, where the internet's kind of democratized that kind of dialogue. I'd watch documentaries, and I said, man, I know all this kind of, I think I know all this kind of random stuff. Let me see if I can create a podcast just to talk to interesting people about things that are interesting and see if there's a connection, So,
I love that. So it just is.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the internet. And so I was like, the randomness of nothing. I said, hey, I don't have a specific topic that I talk about, but I do have a lot of interest in various things.
I love that. I do.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for that. So the randomness of nothing. This is like a book or like a magical world that you can just dive into. The randomness of nothing.
Right. So that's, and I just like, hey man, what sticks and what kind of sounds like can roll off the tongue kind of easy. You know what I mean? So we'll see where this takes me.
Amen. Me too.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate all the kind words, but even me, I'm like, we gotta race the run still.
Yeah, the thing is about it, just briefly, just like your audition, you could get the role or not get the role. The podcast could be unsuccessful or successful. I do martial arts. You can get in there, you get your butt kicked, you can get your hand raised. But the most important thing is to get in the ring. That's it. You have to get in the ring, and then you can find out who you really are. It's easy to sit in the sidelines. It's easy to sit in the stands, but you have to be willing to put yourself in the arena. And you do that, and I appreciate you for it.
Amen. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not.
No.
It's not easy.
Not at all.
It's not, but it'll be worthwhile.
I know. So it's appreciative of you, and I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Belle Guillory. Bye.
Bye.